Now, backwoods New Jersey and the Pine Barrens, like the rest of America during the Revolutionary War, were both at war with one another as citizens. The citizens became loyalists or they became patriots. And it was no different here in what was Monmouth County, which is now Ocean County. And as I got the tavern behind me, and everybody is just done setting up with the reenactment and everything else that happened today, I just want to walk around and show what it looks like now and then talk more about it. But as many people have said, the Revolutionary War was also a civil war because these were neighbors fighting neighbors and countymen fighting countymen. And that's what we'll discuss in today's video of what happened. Now, I'm at this plaque called Cedar Bridge Tavern, and it is known as one of the last documented engagements of the Revolutionary War. And at this plaque here, it says, "The Last Stand of the Revolution. On December 27th, 1782, Captain Richard Shreve of Burlington County Light Horse and Captain Edward Thomas of the Mansfield Militia stopped with their men to refresh themselves at a nearby tavern, which was right here. They had been searching for the notorious Captain John Bacon. He and his band of loyalists were responsible for many atrocities, including the massacre of Patriot Captain Andrew Steelman and his militiamen at Barnegat Light. Seeking to thwart his pursuers, Bacon and his men surprised the Burlington militia, blocking their escape. As the militia gained the advantage, they were fired upon unexpectedly by a party of locals coming to Bacon's aid and providing a diversion, allowing for his escape. Among the Patriots, one was killed and 4 wounded. 4 Loyalists were also wounded, including Captain Bacon." And it says here about the reenactors and stuff like that. That's what we just did today. But as it turns out, like what we reenacted, I was a New Jersey Gray, as you know, someone just helping with the tavern and getting a refreshment, and we were fired upon, and we had to go against the Loyalist forces that were here, and we pushed them back, and the goal was to just hold the bridge, secure the bridge, and that would have been the end of it. So, it was a little scripted, but we did it like how we wanted to. It was fun. It was my first time I ever reenacted before. I got to actually do something that soldiers did. Since I was new, I did not have a flint to the musket I had. I just went through the motions because, one, I'm new. I do know about firearm safety. I take it seriously, so I did what I was told. Had fun doing it regardless, and then went along with it. Just had a fun time and talked to the crowd about some of the history stuff that happened here, and history happened at during the Revolutionary War. Answering some questions from the public, stuff like that. And I have a book here. I just haven't been able to find what I was looking for just yet about the Cedar Bridge Tavern engagement. I plan on checking it as we go along. Now, as for myself, this is not my best look. I'm aware of that. I prefer a beard, but this is as the Continentals were dressed. Shave at least 3 days. I waited till yesterday to shave. But yeah, that's that one. So that's a brief overview of what took place here. It was a quick engagement, but it was just a skirmish. You know, things happened. It was quick. There were casualties, and yeah. I'll go on to the next plaque that we have here about the Cedar Bridge Tavern. Now, this is what the Cedar Bridge Tavern looked over the last century, it says. We have some photos of it. I have it right here, all in its glory. It's quite modern inside, and take a look around. It's run by Ocean County here. It's quite modernized. We get to see a little bit. A lot of restorations going on, but yeah, let's take a look inside. This is a famous painting of the skirmish they're having here at the Cedar Bridge Tavern, Cedar Tavern. I have some photos and everything what it looked like in this area. The fireplace right here. Some other stuff around here. What's inside? I got a replica musket. Bookshelf. I got some people playing games over here. More the shore. Patriots, Loyalists, and Quakers. Quakers were more or less pacifists of the war. We had the Loyalists, the Patriots. There's some music playing. I believe this is a map of the county. And Cedar Bridge. Now, in New Jersey, I am in this vicinity here. And it's roughly over here. And it was originally part of Monmouth County. Now Ocean County, because the county has changed up. Got some artifacts here. Marbles.
Right. I can't remember where. I have to go back and see if I can find it. Or extra. So then, but I think you were giving me not perfect name. I think it was the okay.
Archaeology and stuff. No matter where you go with history, you always have archaeological finds and digs. Like preserving the tavern. All different types of the wood laid out from the original tavern. Are these the original floors to the tavern? Do you know? Oh, got some World War II right here. Bronze Star. I've seen those before. My great grandfather had one. Patton and the 90th. And go up here. So that's plaster with the old original.
Yes, sir, that's the original.
Oh, cool. Nothing new here, or no? That's.
You're looking at a thermostat.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's new, yeah. That's got to be new right here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy how long the wood can last, especially if it's taken care of and stuff. You know. And that's a tavern before. Mama and dedications of their soldiers. Yeah. New Jersey Crossroads of the Revolution. Very short war. And there's Cedar Bridge. Barrens Light. Lapping, Little Town. Benjamin Franklin. Tuckerton. And here we have flag, campaign banner for Whig presidential candidate William Henry Harrison. We have more paintings and photos. And a Hawk and Skirmish. Washington County Parks and Rec. Fair at Long Beach. Barrens Light Massacre. Fair at Cedar Bridge. Last documented land engagement. And then John Bacon at Rose's Tavern. So yeah. I have the rooms in here. Now we exit through here.
Tim Hart. I'm the Ocean County historian, and I'm speaking to you today from the Cedar Bridge Tavern. It is in Barnegat Township, almost to the Burlington County border. And we had just had our commemoration of the Cedar Bridge incident, which we believe is the last documented land engagement of the American Revolution. Now, there's a lot of things that need to be qualified. This tavern was not built until 1816, about. There was an earlier tavern, 1740, the Europeans had here, and that is the tavern that would have been during the American Revolution. That has been burned down, and there's no trace of that. So this tavern is representative of 18th century taverns, but it was not built until 1816. So, what is the significance of the last engagement, land engagement of the American Revolution? Last documented land engagement of the American Revolution is that the Burlington militia from Springfield and Mansfield was trying to settle the score before the war was over. Because if you could settle the score, you'd be a hero because you had killed somebody in the line of duty. If you waited until after the Revolutionary War was over, then that would be murder and you'd be hanged. So the Burlington militia went looking for John Bacon and his pine robbers. There are different terms for them. And they had been doing that for several months. And so this was the culmination of that search. And finally, they catch up to John Bacon. They actually did not find John Bacon. They stop here on their way, the old Springfield Road, on their way back to Burlington County. And they decide to, they are drinking, they're refreshing themselves, as they say. And they see John Bacon and his men at the bridge. And they have a short encounter. There are 22 foot soldiers and 7 horse soldiers from Mansfield, Springfield. And there are about 30 to 50 people on John Bacon's side. They have a short engagement. At the end of the engagement, the Burlington militia is prevailing, and the townspeople take the side of John Bacon. And because this was a Loyalist town, Bacon escapes and goes down to Burlington County, then called Middle of the Shore, now called Tuckerton. And he goes back to New York, and the newspapers up there say that he was a hero because he had won this skirmish. The newspaper in Chatham, New Jersey, is a Patriot newspaper, and they say that, in fact, the Patriots won, which is not too different than today, right? And so now the Burlington militia is an interesting group because under Israel Shreves and the Shreves family, they are actually really more like Continentals. They spend most of the war as regular fighting soldiers. And then normally there's a distinction between militia and Continental Line. The Continental Line is, these are very good soldiers. In fact, Israel Shreves had been in charge of procurement and activities for Washington at Jockey Hollow. Washington dismisses him because he feels that Israel Shreves has not dealt harshly enough with the New Jersey people that are rebelling. And so he's dismissed, and so it's his family that's down here. So it's a really interesting story, very illustrative of the Civil War that was happening during the American Revolution. Loyalists, Patriots, and Quakers kind of in between.
Yeah.
West Jersey, the Quakers are so Tuckerton, the militia in that part of Burlington County that's now the Tuckerton, Little Egg Harbor area, never musters during the American Revolution. And so they're mostly Quakers and mostly Loyalists. And so it's an interesting story. But you should come here. It's open Thursday through Monday from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And we can make arrangements for special tours and so forth. And I think you'll find it an interesting story, particularly from the Burlington County perspective.
Yeah, and you said that Shreves was part of the Continental Army.
Yeah.
So he
Yes.
he was part of the Continental Army. So he was released from the army, and he went out pretty much then. And was
No. So I misexplained that. So the Mansfield, Springfield, Burlington militia.
Yeah.
In fact, they're formed specifically to go after John Bacon and other marauders at the time. But those soldiers, remember, the war is 8 years long. So they may be in the Continental Line for 2 years in major battles like Germantown and so forth. And then when they're not in the major battles, then they're home as farmers. And at that point, they're part of the militia. But so they have a very much higher training and experience than normal militia.
Okay.
And so they go out looking for Bacon. And so Bacon's family lives in Pemberton.
Okay.
And when he's finally killed, resisting arrest on April 3rd, 1783, he's one of the last people killed in the American Revolution. And they take his body to Arnie's Mount, and they're going to bury him next to the Quaker Meeting House. Still there. They were going to bury his body at the crossroads because a body buried at a crossroads can never rest. His brother comes out, who's living in Pemberton, Mount Holly, and he comes out and says, "Oh, I would like the body. The war's over. Why don't you give me the body?" They said, "Okay." He buries it at Arnie's Town. Now, the apocryphal story, that means I don't know if it's true or not, is that they bury, you can go to the Arnie Town the Quaker Meeting House is gone, but you can go to the cemetery, and supposedly Bacon was buried on the edge of the cemetery, and the road was widened, so we ended up being under a street anyway. But that's an apocryphal story. I don't know if that's true or not. But so the connection between Cedar Bridge Tavern is mostly founded by people from Mount Holly as a heavy-duty West Jersey connection. And so technically, according to the Lawrence line, the main line, the 1664 line, it's we're actually Cedar Bridge is in West Jersey, but the Keith line, which ends up being the dividing line between what's now Burlington County and Ocean County, that's based on the Keith line from 1687. And when he did the survey, he did it based on magnetic north rather than true north. So that's why the boundary of the counties is different than the boundaries of the property lines. Kind of complicated, but it's so technically, well, not technically, Cedar Bridge Tavern is in West Jersey. It's just it's in Monmouth County instead of Burlington County. So.
Okay. Now I gotta ask for my viewers.
Sure.
What made John Bacon so notorious?
That's a very interesting story. I don't know the answer to that. He's involved in many violent incidents. He's the most violent, the longest running of all the pine robbers. They're irregular Loyalist troops. So, the names that we have for him are all pejorative because he lost the war, right? Mm-hmm. But actually, there's an incident in Barnegat Light on Long Beach Island where he actually is supposed to have called a doctor to treat the other people. But yeah, no, he is despised the most of all of the Loyalist irregular leaders. Giberson, Molyneux, all those people that hear all these stories, they have songs and so forth. But Bacon, it's interesting. I don't know, it's because it's at the end of the war. He didn't have enough relatives that lived. He did have a wife and 2 sons that lived in Mount Holly. So I don't know. It's a really interesting. That's probably the most difficult question that we don't know the answer to.
Okay.
But he is deeply hated, and his motives are deeply suspected. So.
Okay. And out of all of everything that happens, we have Cedar Bridge. Is that named for the creek or the?
So there are actually 7 or 8 places in what's now Ocean County that have the words Cedar Creek and Bridge in them.
Okay.
And so there are many people in Forked River who believe, as did Salter writing in the 1870s, that the skirmish didn't happen here, but it happened at Cedar Creek, which is between Berkeley and Lacey Townships. But I think the evidence is pretty strong that this is the location. It makes more sense. The Burlington militia are not interested in what's happening in Monmouth County. They're interested in what's happening in Burlington County. So anyway, this makes sense to me to be the site. But other people of good faith think it was someplace else. So just because there are so many towns and places called that Cedar Creek or Bridge in the name. So.
Okay. Well. Is there anything you'd like to add that people probably tend to overlook about the Revolutionary War? Do you think?
Well, mostly that it's a civil war. That it's people are taking sides. It's so Americans. There are American Loyalists. There are American Quakers. There are American Patriots. They're all Americans, and they all believe in that they're English citizens, really, up till the time of the war. And I think that's the thing people misunderstand. They kind of think that everybody who's in the colonies is for independence. That's not true. By the end of the war, Ken Burns points out that there are more people in red coat uniforms, American citizens, than there are patriots. And so it's really only the intervention of the French that allow the patriots to prevail.
So without the French, all is lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate
and
it.
the other thing is that people don't understand, especially in New Jersey, South Jersey, that the Quakers are such an important element. So
I come from Morristown, so we are Quakers.
You have a Quaker meeting house there, yeah. So they don't believe in violence.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people that own the ships in the triangular trade for slaves are, in fact, Quakers owning the ships, right? Molasses, rum, and slaves, Bible and slaves. So you get formally written out is the word they used when you're kicked out of the meeting house because of you in violence. But in fact, Quakers Quaker merchants make a great deal of money being the intermediaries between patriots and loyalists. So it's everything. It's complicated history, right? And nothing's black and white. So.
Yeah, the Quakers got a bad rap, regardless, because
Well,
even at like Paoli and your Brandywine and stuff like that, they would looting would happen, and when Philadelphia was lost and regained, a whole lot more happened to the Quakers. They actually suffered a brunt of the either side because since they didn't do anything.
Where they really received the worst retaliation is after the American Revolution. So at the time of the War of 1812, which some people call the Second War of Independence, the Patriots were paid for in Continentals, which is worthless paper money, right? Or given land grants like in Ohio, places like that. And so they say, wait a minute, but the Quakers actually made money out of this thing. So that's not right. So they actually had all this retaliatory taxation around the time of the War of 1812, where they said, Quakers, you didn't pull your share for this country. We're going to tax you to make up for that. That's an ugly part of American history.
Yeah.
It's there, so.
And the War of 1812 was also another overlooked war.
Absolutely. Because it really is the Second War of Independence. Well, if you're going to really look at it, what we call the American Revolution starts with the French and Indian War, 7 Years' War in Europe, right? And it goes all the way through 1814 for the War of 1812. So it's really like 70 years long. And at that point, then the United States is firmly established as a separate country.
And I see that you have a flag up that says upstairs. It says, "Don't give up the ship."
Yes,
that was a War of 1812 quote.
That correct? Is a War of 1812. Yes, that happens to be a political banner from the 1840 election, where William Henry Harrison, the guy who was only president for 32 days, that was made in Tuckerton, New Jersey, which at that time was part of Burlington County. It was still part of the Little Lake Harbor Township. And so, it's all interconnected. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you for your time.
No problem. Anytime.
As I walk away from this tavern, which, as it turns out, was not here originally, and I walk over the bridge here, I can't help but wonder what it would be like to fight and be in a militia and hunt after a guy who's become notorious. I can't imagine being the guy who's notorious and wants to fight back, wants to, both earn reputations, but at the same time, a small force against one another on these grounds, just slugging it out. Even though it's a small force, it still, you had casualties. And in the reenactment I was doing today, it was fast paced. It was, even though it was fun, it was, you could see things happening in real time, people firing away. Like right now, there's all of these cartridges on the ground here. And I could pick them up here and show them, the rip marks and teeth marks, stuff like that here, or flint being broken, misfires happening all around me. I got to experience some of that, and I can only imagine like what it would have been like realistically, had my firearm not, what do you call it, had it not gone off, or had it not, had it misfired, had a guy next to me fall, or his misfire, and seeing the actual smoke. I mean, I know it was rehearsed, and you had, cannon, and not just necessarily cannon, but you had, not artillery, but there's a lot of musketry happening, small arms fire happening. You had, it's right behind me now. You can see right here. That's the bridge where that car is too. But you know, you just see the just everything coming at you. The ferocity of people actually able to fire that quick. Yes, now mind you, it's not live ammo. There's not live fire rounds. It's people, and I was going through the motions because that's what I was supposed to do. That was what I was told to do. You bring up the musket, you rip after running, putting in, your uh, cartridge box, rip, pour in, pour the rest in, prime everything, set everything up as you're being told by your commanding officer how to set everything up, and then you fire when he tells you to fire, or you fire at will or fire independently. The first time we did it, because as reenactments go, some people had to go home, so we changed it up the second time where we sat there and it was like independent fire. We had to sit there and talk to one another, like yell, kind of be like a little bit more of a show. But I can just sit here and only think just what it would have been like had that been real. You know, no, I acted as somebody who went and chased a deserter. I went and pulled him back and made him get back in line, stuff like that. Just that happens. It was dramatized, but when you're told by your commanding officer, hey, go get that deserter, or get that guy or whatever, you got to do it, and you have no choice. It's either fight and live or fight die. For me, it was fun because I knew it was going to be okay for me at the end of it. But as I said before, war is ugly. It takes a lot of guts to do it. Lightly, maybe a little crazy, maybe a little this and that. But in the end, it's sad. It's a tragedy, and the Revolutionary War is a tragedy. What happened at Cedar Creek here was a tragedy. If John Bacon gets killed and then he gets put underneath, as Tim said, in a intersection, so his body never sleeps. Like, that's a lot of uh, hatred for somebody, and that was 250 years ago almost. So I mean, I can understand it, but like, it's just crazy that he gets hit, they go down, they save him, but yeah. And sadly, with my book, I couldn't find any literature on this. I thought it would have happened, but no, sadly not. But we have come to an end for this video. If you did like it, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Have yourself a good one.